Hey, hi everybody. Thank you for coming. I know it has been very intense days and a lot of talks and a lot of meetings. So thank you very much for attending and being here. My name is Patty Toledo. I'm the Chief Partnerships Officer of a company called PlaySense. And just for reference, we are a marketing agency that works with content for games all over the scope. We do trailers, social media content, everything. And I have been working with marketing quite extensively, therefore the talk. And I have also, in a personal note, been working with indie developers for over a decade now, helping them get the most out of their games, finding partners. I am a firm believer that we need to help each other to be successful and try to share knowledge as much as possible. That's why this talk, I wanted to come here and try to give you as many tips and tricks as possible about how to make best marketing, especially in the times of crisis, because when everything is great, it's easy. But when things are a bit shaky, they can be more complicated. And I hope you can get the most out of this talk. The organizers asked me to share two things with you. This is not my words, don't get mad at me. The first, please, for you not to use the phone. I don't know exactly why. I don't think they like you using the phone, but just bear in mind. And the other thing is that they said you guys are supposed to receive a feedback form, and they asked very kindly for you to give feedback about the talk in the end. Please be kind. I want to talk again. It's really hard to get a talk here. But yeah, I would also be very thankful of receiving realistic and constructive feedback. I can always learn how to be a better speaker every time, right? We're constantly learning about things. So let's start. And fingers crossed that everything works the way it's supposed to work. Technology does not like me very much. Yay! So, why video game marketing? For a lot of developers, especially indie developers, a lot of times marketing is a after effect, is an afterthought. When you guys are developing games, you're usually thinking about how to create the best games, the core loop, how to make something that is attractive to the players, and then marketing is something that you start thinking when the game is almost ready. The problem with that is that it doesn't matter how amazing your game is. If it gets lost in the loop, if nobody knows where it is, if you are stuck on the hundreds of thousands of games that are being released on that same day, all your efforts go for nothing, right? We always, there is this field of dream effect of build it and it will come. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. And the most effective marketing that you guys can do is from the very beginning, and it should be something that you should be thinking parallelly to how you're making this game. When you're creating a game, you should already be thinking how you're going to connect with your players, how you're going to make the most out of it, right? And the biggest challenge now is it's the elephant in the room. We cannot avoid to think that we are in a crisis, right? We can see the amount of people looking for jobs. We can see companies closing all the time. That's one side of the crisis. I know it's very negative. I'm really sorry, but it is as it is. But also you have hundreds of thousands of games being released every day. The market is saturated. And when players have less jobs and less money as well, games are a luxury at times. A lot of the players, between paying for their rent and eating and buying a game, they will choose, of course, or at least I hope they will choose to pay rent and eat, but so it can be tricky on that. And there, the marketing becomes even more important because now playing a game is a commodity and you have to make the best to convince the players that your game is what they need to be playing, right? And what I want to focus today is that in creativity and adaptability, because I think when budgets are limited, when attention is limited, when everything is against you, the most creative and adaptive strategy is the one that is going to win in the overall. So we need to start kind of abandoning the traditional way of doing marketing and the way that you guys, but Paul, I hope you learned, like not every place teaches about marketing, and start thinking outside the box as much as possible. So I was saying, what are the biggest challenges that you have now, besides like making a game is as easy as is the easiest thing that has been for a long time. The tools to create the games are super easy. It's a lot easier to get assets. A lot of developers don't even need to be like a programmer or designer to do. If you have a great idea, you can go to a UGC platform and test that idea immediately in a day, right? It's as easy as it can be. But it also means that we have, like I said, economic downturns, people have less money, and also I didn't put there, but we can't ignore that attention span of the players is shorter and shorter. People are every day being like stormed with news of games and different activities on social media, and their attention is lower and lower. I actually wrote an article the other day, and I was researching. I was super surprised that the attention span of people now is less than 8 seconds. So you have 8 seconds to grab the attention of your players. It used to be 12, so in this is becoming shorter and shorter while the social media is exploring, right? But from the development point of view, we have games being postponed all the time because now you're competing with other developers, and you have to make sure that when you release your game, there isn't another big player releasing their games at the same time. Marketing budgets are getting cut when there is a marketing budget. Sometimes there isn't a market budget there. And we have to deal with that at all times. So, enough from negative stuff. I know I started with the black. Let's start with the colorful now. How do you do this? There are 3 pillars that you should always keep in mind. One of them is flexible strategies. We can't go anymore from the same point of view of you make a game, you make a trailer, you release the trailer, and then you pray that the game is going to sell. It can't be that way anymore. You have to be able to read the market, read the data, and change your strategy all the time based on how your players are reacting. You also have to have a really quick response to change. Indie developers are usually really good to respond to change, but when the studios start growing, they become less and less flexible. They become more and more stuck on certain patterns. So the more flexible and the more active, proactive you are in changes, the best you are. I can give you a really good example of this. A friend of mine made a great game, took her 10 years to make her game, Renee, and the day that she released the game, EA re-released 10 games that she released at the same time. All her marketing strategy that she planned for went out of the window. In this case, she had the choice. Either she sits in a corner and cries and goes, and go do something else, or she adapts, changes, and move on, right? So you have to be like prepared for the worst and have ideas to deal with that, right? The key is always that, is innovation over tradition. Forget what you did before, that you learned that was the top, and start thinking, how crazy can you be? And if you are indie, you have less budget, but you have the possibility to be crazier than everybody else. Because big studios, they have IPs that they have to uphold, they have key players or key holders that they're gonna be against, but indie developers don't. You can be as crazy as you wanna be. Now, why do we do marketing? The same reason why we do games. Like, we want to tell stories, we want to connect with the players, and we want to be relevant, not only with our time, but with the audience that we're talking with. I think these are things that a lot of marketeers and even game developers forget at times. Games are a form of art, and you're making games because you love it, but you're also making games because you want to talk to an audience. You really want to create the deepest emotional connection possible with that audience, right? And when you're doing marketing, it has to be the same way. You are telling your story, you're telling the story of your game, and you want the audience to really connect with you when you're doing that. Keep that in mind every time you're doing. Why I'm saying that? Because you will hear from a lot of marketeers that the simplest and the most the simplest ads work the best in case of numbers. Yeah, that's true. If you do a mobile game, those are, have you, the guy, how many of you play mobile games, for example? Okay, cool. Have you ever seen those ads that they're like, you cannot finish this puzzle? And it's a ridiculous person. Yeah, those ads work. But does it tell anything about the game? Not necessarily. It's just one more ad, exactly as every other ad. You're not standing out. You're playing with luck, right? How many people will actually find your ad funny enough that they will play? You don't want that. You want to have an ad that, or a trailer or any marketing that people will remember forever and will get stuck in their head. My dream is to create a propaganda in some point that is as stuck in the head of people as Sega did in the 80s. To this day, every time I see Sega logo, what pops in my head is Sega. Every time. It's automatic. And it has been like 30 years on this. That's the kind of impact that you want to have. You want to create something that people will go and they will never forget. It will really get stuck in people's head. And you want it to be authentic. You want to be something that you're going to not only be proud to promote, but be proud to show to colleagues and to peers in the industry. You want it to be something unique, right? Thinking that you took months and months with your team to create the best game possible. Why would you take 5 minutes to do, and it's broadcast, to do a ad, right? I am the most dirty mouth person ever, but I cannot say bad words in a broadcast. But you get my idea, right? Oh, and I forgot to say, relevant with culture, current events. I put it this because although we try to make games in a way that is not political, is not religious, is not gender connected, we want to be as active and as neutral as possible. We live in a society, we're talking to people, and we know where they are. So we can't be completely ignoring like whatever is going on out there, especially because if we ignore what is going on out there, we're also going to make mistakes. We're going to run the case of making marketing in a way that not only will not connect with everybody, will also alienate everybody. So information is key here. Be connected with the world and with the audience that you're talking so you can do. And this is deeply connected on knowing your player. I'm not talking about player profile because I think it's pretty obvious, but just to remember, you need to know who you're talking to all the time that you're doing marketing. If you don't know who you're talking to, go back to the board because you should know who you're talking to before you develop the game, right? Like the first thing, you should know who you're developing the game for, and then the relevance count here. Then, now it starts my favorite parts, the very, very practical things. Oy, sorry, that was me. First thing, community. You guys will hear a lot about community throughout the release. There is one big mistake that I would say about 90% of the developers and publishers do there is a huge pet peeve of mine. The same way that people think about marketing in the end of the process, they also think about community when the game is already done. When the game is already done, it's already too late. You're already running after your community. You should be connecting with your players and creating a community from the moment you started with the idea of the game. I know it's a very old concept that people have, like, oh, if I share my idea, someone is going to steal it. No, they won't. For several reasons. First is, let's imagine that I have the same game idea that he has, and he is not paying attention at me, so it's good that I'm pointing at him. So we have the same idea, right? Even if we both develop the same idea with different teams, it's not going to be the same game in the end. Because ideas, we have a ton, but what is going to make the game is the team you're working with, how you're doing and how you're developing it. There is a lot of things that count on that. So abandon this idea that if you share your ideas, people will steal it and run and develop the game. And while abandoning that, connect with the community, start building from the first day. I have a really good example that is also connected with the social media part that is the next one, but I'm gonna share here. There is a great team of developers called Awesome Games. They did a game called Axolot. It's a tiny game. Now they were published by PlayStack. And one thing that they did that is really cool is they had this idea of making a game with an axolot. And what they did is they made an art and went on TikTok and started talking to the TikTok members. What did they think about making a game about axolot? And the community started talking about that. And when they had everything done, the idea that the community gave to them is like, yes, do a game with axolot and give them guns. That would be awesome. And they did that. They created a game where you have a shooting axolot. It's the funniest thing ever. When they did their Kickstart, it blew off. They got the money quite fast because now they already had a community that has been following every aspect of what they are developing. They have been sharing throughout the development. Also, the people that started having the idea started sharing to other people because they foster a sense of belonging, a sense of ownership. The community felt that they were involved in the process. They are part of the development process. And then they started getting organic marketing, which is what we all want. Organic marketing is the best one ever, right? And the players become protective and supportive of the game because they are part of the process now. It's not only you making the game on your side, you hear the players there. The players are part of it, right? And you can get all the direct interaction, all the feedback, everything that you need. This is the community that you want to create. Think of one thing. Nobody here is doing a game to make one game and go home and say, yes, I made a game. I will never make a game again. No, you're making games to make a career. You want to make several games. You want to publish like as many as possible. You want to create strong IPs that everybody will remember for. And for you to do that, if you have a community on your back, every time you make a new game, they will be there to support. The first time, it's a little bit hard to do. The second time gets a lot easier. The third, fourth, it becomes really, really automatic for you. Okay? I have no idea what time, so I will keep going. So, social media is the second step of this. They work together. Building a community and leveraging social media should work hand in hand on that. Nowadays, there are a lot of really cool tools. I am a huge fan of TikTok. Like, I'm not kidding. I am in TikTok. I love it. I do not like Facebook, but hey, I'm old. But because on social media, not only you're allowing the community to talk to you, you're allowing the community to get your content and run with it. They can share, they can react to it, they can create their own content together with you with tagging. You can really create a wave, right? The thing that you want the most is engagement. Has nothing to do with how many followers you have. You can have you can have one account with 1,000 people there, but if from 1,000 people, 500 are sharing what you're doing, commenting and going around, you get it. Plus, it's a little bit harder, but you can even make money out of social media and fund some of the things that you're doing. So, and social media should be treated also from the very beginning of the development. Do not make the mistake of thinking that afterwards it do. Another good tip is the following. You want to share not only the game, you want to share about you. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, game developers were here, players were here, and there was no connection in between. People are like, when I started working with games, like when I decided I want to work with games, I didn't know many of the developers. I had to do the whole network from the beginning. As a player, I had no idea who were the people developing. Nowadays, the developers and the players are coexisting. A lot of players are becoming developers. You don't have the difference anymore. So the more you make yourself likable, the more you share what you're doing, the more you make the player part of your process, the best it is. The more you will have this emotional connection that we talked before and organic growth, right? And really be good listeners. A lot of developers make a really big mistake of thinking, yeah, I will share, people, like I will go, people will share, that's it, but then they ignore the audience. They don't want to listen. If they give feedback that is not something that they want to hear, they delete the feedback. No, remember to separate quite clearly what are the trolls and what are feedback, right? The trolls are just there to destroy. Of course, you have to deal with them and try to go. But be careful not to mix trolls with just feedback that is not necessarily what you wanted to hear. What you want to create with your audience is an image as sincere as possible, that you care, that you are doing it for them, and that they are an integral part of what you're doing. Okay? Then, this is one that a lot of people go, ugh, don't like it. And there is a reason why. When we talk about brands and when we talk about brands in games, a lot of times what we see is, oh, it's money, it's commercial. Brands give money, you put it in the game, you get the money, and that's it. That's not what I'm talking here. I would love to see more of brands becoming a part of the gameplay in a way that not only adds value to the game, it adds value to the player as well. We're very much in the beginning of it. We have seen some interesting things on Fortnite, but I would like to see a lot more than that, because think with me here, just an idea. Imagine you have a brand that is really connected, really in sync with the game that you're playing, to a point that it helps you feeling more engaged and more immersed in the game. Because now you're seeing in the game things that you have seen in real life throughout, and it's natural, it doesn't feel weird, it feels right there, right? Besides that, you know that, for example, because the brand is in the game, maybe the game is slightly cheaper for your players. Or what you're doing for the brand, you're getting money. You're not going to be hypocrite out of it. You're making money. But maybe you're also helping the community. Maybe part of this profit is actually being donated for something in the community. There are certain ways that you could play that could also help increase the engagement. And besides that, now, the brand is also promoting you because you are adding value to them. So you are getting reach on an audience that is way further than the audience that your normal marketing will get. So I'm throwing this out of that. If we can create a symbiotic experience where the brands are really part of the game and it's adding value not only to the players, but also to society, we can really make something amazing here. Unfortunately, I do not have great examples of this yet, but I just wanted to throw it out there because I personally really want to see this. I really want to see things working on that direction and going a bit away from, you give me $1 million and I will still charge 100,000, 100 euros from the players. If we can make it in a way that is more friendly for both sides, it could be really interesting. But back in topic, this is another thing that I find really interesting that very few developers use, and I wish I can share a little bit of knowledge with you. Influencer partnership. When we're talking about influencer marketing with developers and publishers, the norm, what everybody thinks is, okay, I have this money, I pay an influencer, the influencer makes a video, makes a campaign, plays the game, says, hey, this is amazing. It's all fake, everybody knows it's fake. The player knows you paid, the developer, like everybody knows it play, and then you hope you hope that it's gonna reach. The thing is that the best influencer partnerships did not occur that way. The best influencer marketing occurs when not only you bring the influencers early and they are part of your testing team, they are deeply engaged in what it's happening, and they are being part of the development, but also when you give your players the opportunity of being influencers as well. We have this concept that doing influencer marketing means I'm gonna pay PewDiePie to do, and I know PewDiePie is not loved anymore, but bear with me, right? But you're paying this huge amount of money for someone to play. No, the best influencer marketing are a lot of nano and micro influencers. Influencer players that are players, like your players, with a few hundreds, a few thousands of followers, but sincerely playing the game. A good example of that is what Space Ape did several years ago. When they started working with influencers, they did that. They made a group of 20 influencers that were not big, but they helped the influencers grow, and the influencers helped them develop good games. And then little by little, they started expand that, because then those influencers that are talking about the game, they are sincere. They are really part of the community. They are really giving feedback. They are not just talking about the game because you're paying them. They are talking about the game because now they are engaged in it. They are part of it. So remember to also work with influencers quite early. And I think I always say the best thing is if you have players, and usually there are a lot of players in the community that they dream of being influencers, that they want to build their social media platforms, they want to get followers, help them. Why give money for a lot of big guys that are doing that only commercially? Give a bit of support for the ones that are smaller, but you can have an army of those doing that for you, right? And be creative again. The best way is, if everybody is doing gameplay and it's boring, try to talk with your influencers how you can make a difference. One thing that a lot of developers forget is that the influencers need you as much as you need them. They need content, they need to work, they need to get interesting things to talk to the audience, and you want to be that interesting thing. So do that as a real collaboration, step by step, instead of treating this as a commercial relationship of I hired you, you play, and that's it. Like, go deep down on their level or high in their level, like really work with them from the base, okay? This is something that also people don't use it enough. There was a time that we used more. During the pandemic, we saw a lot of that just because people could not go to conferences like this and show their games and play. Why don't we do that more often, right? If we can constantly do gameplay sessions, if we can do events with our players, we can showcase what we're doing. especially indie developers, usually depend a lot on other events to do, but you can do it your own. Like if you are, depending on the city that you are, there are other developers in the same area. Talk to them. Let's do a gameplay session. Let's do something innovative there. Also, nowadays, there are quite a lot of tools that you can use to create even AR campaigns out of the game, right? It's a little bit more complicated than the others, but really try to use virtual events as much as possible and virtual reality as much as you can to do everything. I will give you an example of this in a while. But then, what is the whole point? The whole point is you want to make things that are the lowest cost possible with the highest impact possible, right? And the way that you're going to do that is by leveraging everything that you have and the community that you have. It's really by connecting in all the way and to try to use technology as much as you can. It has never been easier to use technology than before, right? Especially even when you're doing the ideas, being able to use social media and use events to test the ideas, to talk to people, it's key for everything. The other thing that is super interesting are the user-generated content platforms. I know a lot of us go, Roblox, I don't want to use that. But think how powerful it is that you can do a prototype really fast, test it, get it with the audience, see what they think. Is the idea good? You now have data that you can actually share with publishers and investors if you need to get money, or at least you can create the community already to discuss your future development, right? And the other thing is the community, like I said, community-driven marketing all the time. Do competitions. If you have ideas, like there are games that did it really well, that they have the audience creating key visuals to share, videos on TikTok. Try to use your community as much as possible. I talked about a lot of examples, but I wanted to give a few more that I didn't talk. Just this is one of the campaigns that we did for PUBG. It's not an indie, but just to have an idea, big players also have problems of repetitive marketing. They don't know how to break away from the core. So we did a campaign for them where the helmet's being put on top of the Eiffel Tower and of Sphinx, and to engage, because this kind of video is really easy for people on TikTok and Instagram to share, and it got viral. Other good examples I saw, it's one of my favorite examples because it's so weird, is Flappy Bird, because what they did was a marketing that it was marketing, but it wasn't market. It was marketing. It was an accident, but it proves a point where, because the game started getting really, really popular, they decided, the developer said, I'm going to take it out. I'm going to put it down. And for the moment he said that he's going to take the game out, everybody wanted the game, and it went even more viral than before. Scarcity is actually something really cool to play with. Don't abuse it, though. It doesn't work all the time, but it is still quite interesting to do. Another idea that I talked about the brand that can be interesting was Diablo with Lily's chocolate, where people could get chocolate out of with the Diablo branding. There has been a lot of, during the pandemic, Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley had quite a lot of community-driven marketing campaigns. So there are quite interesting examples that you guys can get in the market, right? So what are the things that I wanted to take you away from that? Is first is to try to explore as much as possible new trends and new audiences. I know you guys have been creating games, and when you're creating games, you have those players in mind that are people like you that love certain kinds of games, that play the kind of game that you love. Remember, everybody loves games. People play different games all the time. If you play a first-person shooter, doesn't mean that you're not gonna play a strategy game or a building game. You're gonna play other games. And also, although a great majority of people in the planet plays games, we still have people that don't. So we still have a market that we can explore and we can grow on that, right? And I try to give some examples here, but I'm still just me. There are a ton of ways that you guys can do things. And by the way, I wanted to say, if you guys want to connect with me on LinkedIn later and brainstorm ideas, I will be happy to help as much as possible. I get extremely nervous when I'm talking in public, so my brain kind of goes every now and then. I'm happy to try to be more creative afterwards. But the best thing that I would say is embrace the unexpected. Embrace the accidents, embrace even the bad things. Challenges are here. Challenges are only challenges if you see them as bad things. Challenges are great opportunities for you to go on path that you didn't think before, to really be crazy and go out of the way to do things, right? So if you take something from here, I would like you to take the following. First is that, remember, games are a form of art. Besides being a product, they work hand in hand. They are not mutually exclusive. But above everything, games are about telling stories. Even games as simple as Tetris is there to tell a story, to connect with the time, and to make players really engaged in that. So be flexible, be very open about the story you want to tell. And if you remember anything from this talk, remember community. Community, community, community. You need to build one. If you are developing a game and you don't have a community already, you're already late, do it now. Start yesterday. Like really build a community, right? And don't be afraid of new partnerships. Don't be afraid of new technology. Even if you heard all the time that working with brands or working with partners or working with new technology is not good, it's just a question of thinking different ways of doing what people did before. Learn from other people's mistakes and make it better, right? I don't know if I have time for, well, I don't think I have time for questions, but they are gonna tell me. But I wanted to share my email, and you guys can, I'm really easy to find on LinkedIn. I was very surprised that when you put my name, I am the first person that pops in on everything. I was not kidding when I said that I love helping and I mentor a lot of people. So if you need anything, really feel free to contact. I try to answer as fast as possible. And I hope you guys enjoyed this and it wasn't too bad. Thank you. And